Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm here with Stephen Spatz. Hi Stephen.
Good morning. How are you, Joanna?
I'm good. It's great to have you on the show. Just a little introduction. Stephen is the president of BookBaby.com, which provides self-publishing services and book distribution for independent authors. Today, we're talking about the survey that BookBaby did on the habits of top-earning indie authors and a whole lot more. So let's start, Stephen, by just tell us a bit more about you and your background in publishing and working with creatives and authors.
Great. Well, thank you again. Thank you for having me. And I enjoy telling a little bit about BookBaby, about what we do. Well, my background is, it's funny, I'm with BookBaby. I've come back full circle from where I started in life. I was a journalist, as a matter of fact, or as we call it in the States, a fake news provider. Some quarters, but I started out with a real love of writing and a real appreciation for, communicating, the written word to the masses. I stayed in the newspaper industry for a few years, and then I went into our family business, which was direct marketing of food and fruit products, as a matter of fact. And so I did a lot of catalog writing. Obviously, it wasn't the same as the kind of creative writing. It was business writing, and that's where my career sort of evolved too. We sold that business, and I went to work for some fantastic Fortune 500 companies like Mattel and Hasbro, and you really learned a lot about customer service and excellence of the brand there. And then I joined a company in southern New Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia, and they were working with independent musicians. And I was ready for kind of a different change to my career. And our parent company has worked with indie musicians for 70 years and really understands the needs of these creative folks. And when we launched a brand out in our Portland office of BookBaby, being the writing part of that, I was immediately very interested. So I had my nose over the fence, as it were, across the country, and got involved with their marketing. And then eventually, as the brand grew and needed a leader, I stepped up, rose, put my hand up, and have been having a great time. And now I have a staff of about 50 people here in Philadelphia. We're growing. In fact, we just moved into brand new quarters in our building. We've been expanding so rapidly. So it's been a joyous ride, and being able to work with hundreds of authors every single week with their passions and their dreams. It's very rewarding. And our employees, they come to work, knowing they're really helping these authors live out their dreams.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I think we're going to circle back to like the music side and your marketing background. But I think what's interesting, like you mentioned the growth there, and I mean, it's so interesting how things have changed in the last 10 years. So the Kindle launched just over 10 years. Obviously, BookBaby does print books as well as ebooks and other things. But you're connected with a lot of people in the publishing industry because of now, what you're doing. So how has the reputation of self-publishing changed? I guess, and that change has sort of sped up recently, but how has it changed?
It really has. I mean, let's face it. Thank God we're a long ways from the world of vanity press and all of the associated things with that concept. Being involved with the music business as we've been, indie musicians have kind of had this edge to them, this rebellious streak to them, and we're finding that independent authors are now starting to accept that red badge of courage, as it were, saying, yeah, I'm an indie author and I'm proud. Now, you mentioned about the Kindle. It certainly was a milestone, no question about it. But the reason we're sitting here talking to each other across the Atlantic is because of the self-publishing revolution. I think came about because of the technology revolution. Certainly the Kindle was one part of that, but I mean smartphones and social media and this is Skype that we're on. We think that frankly, I think if Kindle was one milestone, another huge milestone was the advent of digital printing, which made print on demand a true reality. So that yes, you could have your ebooks within range for independent authors, but now for the first time, really all the digital printing equipment, of which we have several pieces here in our own facility, make it so that authors can have access to tremendous products. So really, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. We are all benefiting, I think, from all of the joys and travails of technology, whatever it does bring. There are some, I'm from a small town in Oregon, and I could be sitting there writing my book and have every bit of advantage as somebody who's sitting in the concrete canyons of London or Manhattan. So it really has brought the world to to a place where independent authors can feel like, they're a big part of it.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I mean, do you think, you mentioned the sort of how indie musicians were the forerunners and the sort of rebels, and an indie film is pretty trendy. Is there going to come a point where indie authors are as trendy as indie musicians and indie filmmakers?
Well, we certainly hope so. In fact, we're banking on it, as a matter of fact. But really, it's just the finally, people can choose to publish themselves. They don't have to wait for an editor to select them, or a publicist, or a publisher. They really get to choose themselves to be out there, and that's just a tremendously rewarding thing, and it's rewarding for us to be able to help that happen for our authors.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think we're trendy already.
Exactly.
But let's talk about the survey. It's unsurprising that successful authors do more marketing. I mean, that's not, breaking news, but the types of marketing were interesting to me. So what were some of the findings about successful authors around marketing?
So a little bit of background first. We sent this survey out at the beginning of 2017, and we set out to get the widest possible, response levels. We got almost 8,000 either aspiring or published authors, and most of them were published, to give us their opinions. And some of the most important findings were when we compared groups of successful authors, and we kind of classified that to mean they've made over $5,000 on their last book, versus, let's just say, not so successful. They really have not made a lot of money. And some of the findings that, of course, they were very obvious. Obviously, perspiration was important. Yes, inspiration is important to an author, but when it comes to marketing, perspiration. And we saw that these successful authors, they tried a lot of things. It's just, they dabbled in Twitter, and then they just stayed with that. No, they tried many things, all the way from having their signing events, to doing email marketing, to having their own web pages. One of the things that I think that our authors, all authors, unfortunately, independent authors, overlook is the importance of the pre-sale and what they can do and set themselves up for it. Now, we deal with a lot of first-time authors here, and I think if we were able to poll them now, what was the most surprising thing about their book publishing experience? The time it takes to really do this right. BookBaby does not offer rush services, and that's for a reason. We will not rush a book out there. We will tell people, no, your book is not going to make it out for Christmas, and they're calling on November 23rd. We make a point of making sure that they understand the kind of timelines. And so to do a real quality pre-sale, they've got to have all their ducks in a row. They have to have their book finished on time. They have to establish them on the retail sites. They got to get the word out, and it takes a lot of time and planning, but oh my gosh, it is worth it. Aside from a few proven winners out there, which I think are BookBub and things like that, getting great reviews, doing a successful pre-sale is just so important. And I think our most successful authors either knew that going out, or it was their second or third book and they learned from the experience. So there is that saying, haste makes waste, and it can't be more true in the self-publishing world.
I think you're right there, and it is surprising how long things take. And I like doing pre-sales because you can kind of, you can just get everything and all your ducks in a row, and you can go get everything working. And often you upload stuff, and then you want to fix stuff and change stuff, and you can do that with a pre-order. But I was given your background, so you have this background in direct marketing for companies like Mattel and Hasbro, which are huge. And also you mentioned working in food and fruit marketing on your company, your family business. Now, I love this because, firstly, I mean, books are not a commodity when you're the author. I mean, they are special, but at the end of the day, with apples, for example, there are a lot of different types of apples, but somebody wants an apple or they want a thriller author. So essentially, we're trying to stand out in a crowded field. So what did you find from other industries? What are some of the best practices that some of these other industries are using that might be useful for authors?
Well, it's funny you talk about apples and pears. My family and our partner, we had over 1,500 acres of pears and apple orchards in Southern Oregon. And how do you market a pear that you could walk into your local supermarket and get that for $1.69 pound, or you could buy a lovely, incredible box of hand wrapped and hand selected and carefully packaged fruit for a whole lot more. Well, you had to extol the value. You had to impress upon your customers, or for authors, the readers, the value of what you have to offer. So what I really learned through the Mattels and the Hasbros and even our own family business is the professionalism. It comes when you are packaging up, as it were, your product. And yes, we sometimes have to refer to books as products. We know it's an emotional type of product for the author, but at the same time, you're dealing with a very crowded marketplace, and you need to make sure that your cover is exquisite, of course. Basics that we have talked about, you have talked about for many years now about what an author needs. So professionalism certainly is important in that presentation. Do no harm to your brand is something that we talked about a lot at Mattel and Hasbro for G.I. Joe and Barbie. And so how does that translate to an author? Well, so personally, for instance, if you have a professional, if you have a Twitter feed or a website, keep it to your book. Keep it to professionalism if that's important to you. Now, if you're a political writer and you're writing political books, obviously you should be commenting on politics, perhaps in your Twitter feed. But I don't write political books. I keep my Twitter feed about self-publishing and about things that interest me. So I think it's important to not harm your brand and keep, make sure that the brand integrity is there. And then finally, really, I think life is all about customer service, right? Do right by your customers. So for Mattel and Hasbro, that was delivering great products at great prices. For my family fruit business, that was delivering Christmas gifts on time. For gosh sakes, most of our business was during the holidays. So a lot of pressure on us to deliver those Christmas gifts on time. So, and for authors, it's writing a great book, of course. That would be a given, hopefully. But also, having metadata, having descriptions about your book that really tell about your book, having reviews that are genuine and honest, not trying to bypass or trick the system. You need to make sure that your readers and your customers are happy. Unless you're only planning to do one book and that's it, but if you have intentions to further your writing career, you're going to want your customers, your readers to want to come back for more. And that's what we encourage at BookBaby.
Yeah, and I think you're right there about the fruit. And it's interesting in selling food again. As you say, it's sort of this personal farm with this family and, this dad and this son. And, the story behind the product is also important. So I think for authors, it's about, as you say, curating your brand, but also sharing personal things. So, and I know it's hard for some authors, but putting your face out there so that people know you're a real person rather than, kind of hiding behind an avatar can make the difference between someone being willing to spend that extra $1 or extra 50 cents on your product instead of some other product.
So true. I mean, the personality that you can add to that, to bring the, maybe it's a little sass, maybe it's a little snark, it could be different for that type of book. And maybe it's more endearing or enriching if you're a children's book author. I mean, you have to kind of probably mold, have to think about how you are portraying yourself, how you're presenting yourself out there in these marketing vehicles that you choose, from Twitter to Facebook to, other type of social presences to, things that you put on your own personal website.
And then also kind of circling back to, you mentioned the doing one book, successful authors, don't just have one book. And I was thinking about Barbie again. So when we say Barbie, there is not actually one Barbie, right? There are loads and loads and loads of Barbies. So every little girl or little boy, in this non-gendered world, can find the Barbie or Ken or whatever that fits them and what they want. So have you, I know that successful authors have more than one book, but what else did you find about authors taking their writing career seriously? What are the kind of hallmarks of longevity?
So what we're trying to impress upon our authors is that the release of a book is not an event. It's the beginning of an adventure. I don't want to I don't want to use the analogy that you're birthing a child, but there are a lot of similarities here. It's not going to end after a certain point. You're not going to, after 6 months or so, you're not going to just forget them and put them in a corner. I mean, it's really the start of a lifelong adventure. And BookBaby as a partner here, we do impress upon them that we're going to be around forever. We're going to be sending you checks for a long, long time. We may be sending you heirs checks. And to think of your book in that way, that it's not just a one-time only event, unless you're writing something incredibly topical, that really is going to fizzle out. But really, most of the books that we do, have a long, long shelf life. But you're right. We also encourage them to invest in their books, either with our experts, or go out and find your own great cover designer, find your own editor. People are now realizing that their retired high school teacher is not a great book editor. Their sister-in-law who doodles horses on notes is not a great cover designer. You need professionals out there, and thank God again for the internet, where it's within reach. You can find these tremendous experts thanks to the reach of the World Wide Web, and we hope to encourage the professionalism of our authors. I think it lifts up the entire self-publishing industry if they're indistinguishable. In our music side, we have this unwritten motto: is we make the little guy look big, and it really kind of carries over into the book business. So that when they're ready to go out to the marketplace, they have everything lined up: a beautifully edited book, a great cover design, a formatted book, whatever. Hopefully both print and ebook, because we believe in authors should follow the marketing dictum, which make it easy for their customers to consume their product. If they don't like ebooks, make sure you have print books, or vice versa. And audiobooks, of course, is something that we're interested in, and we may be expanding out into that, but obviously it's something now greatly within reach of independent authors, and we're sort of exploring that on their behalf as well.
Well, I definitely agree with all that. And it's interesting because, of course, in the early days of self-publishing and ebooks, you could chuck up a book with a sort of not very good cover, but it's just not. It's not.
Chuck up is a very operative word. Yes.
You can't. I mean, even if the book was a quality book, you could still just put an amateur cover and still make sales. And as you say, I think that's really changed. And what you'll see in the bestseller lists, and in a way, I kind of don't like the idea that we are indistinguishable from traditional publishing, but in the same way, from the reader perspective, we have to be indistinguishable, because you don't want them to make a decision based on, oh, that's not good enough. You want them to go, oh, both of these are great, which one shall I pick? So I think that's really important. So I want to go more into print, because we're talking at the beginning of 2018, and there are troubling reports from Barnes & Noble in the US about the viability of stores, and the high street in the UK is under threat. I went for a walk earlier in Bath, where I live, and there's so many shops that are now empty on the high street in a very touristy town where people do come to shop. So interested in your thought about if there are going to be more online sales of print, will that impact, how will that impact authors, and what should they be doing, I guess?
Well, yeah, so we've been sadly watching the situation with Barnes & Noble. They're a great partner of ours. We've sold a lot of books through them. People are able to have events. We are crossing our fingers and hoping they find a way to kind of differentiate themselves. I hope that the store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania can be different from the store in Chicago, in some ways. Maybe there's more local interest, and so we're hoping they do find a way to hang on. You mentioned print. Print is something which has been in our background. We've been printing items for musicians now for 40 years here in our plant. And as I said earlier, I think that the advent of the digital printer, the HP 10,000s that we have here, the HP 7800 that we have here, have made this kind of beautiful product finally available to authors. We took a long time to devise our print-on-demand program, because what we were hearing from the marketplace is there were complaints about the quality of some of the providers. There were complaints about that they couldn't get hardcover books, or they couldn't get color books. So we wanted to make this a very inclusive program, and the only way we could do that is if we did it ourselves. So we actually do all of our own print-on-demand work right here in our factory outside of Pennsylvania. In fact, we're knocking out some walls and adding some more capacity, because we were running very short of capacity last Christmas, and we anticipate that. So we think that authors have a great future in print and print on demand. They need to have high quality books. They need to make sure that book number 5 is the same as book number 5,005. And again, with digital printing, you can ensure that with the profiles that you build in. We wanted to give them a wider range of offering, different trim sizes and different color options and things like that, and make that accessible. So print is now a major part of our business. And as I say, we encourage authors to do both, because there are just some customers who are not going to buy an ebook. They just don't want to do that. And so we need to make that product available to them. And that's been a huge investment for our company, but we think it's worthwhile. I can walk now 150 feet from my new office and walk out and see what kind of books are coming out. And we're able to control the quality here, and think that this is what self-published authors need, that kind of quality outlet.
And I mean, I only write books that text at the moment, and those haven't really been an issue with most of the providers. I'm very happy with CreateSpace and IngramSpark for some of their stuff, and we're going to come back to how BookBaby is different to those services. Great. But the beautiful print, I mean, what I see the response of traditional publishing to print on demand is, we're going to put out some really nice hardback, embossed, all these lovely things on their print covers. I mean, there's some really nice covers coming out right now. Right. The other problem that indies have is children's books, photo books, color and, print heavy image books that might history books with photos or whatever. So what do you see? Do you see print on demand getting even better, so these things become, I guess, cheaper? Because at the moment they can be done, but they can be pretty expensive, right?
That's right. And digital printing costs are coming down. I mean, it'll take a while for that really to feel a big effect. Self-published authors are not going to make a lot. They're not going to get rich on offering print on demand when it goes through Amazon. Now, when they go through their own websites through BookBaby, we do pay a 50% royalty on our print on demand books. Our rates. When you take BookBaby through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, people like that, we pay approximately the same rates as print on demand through those. And we strongly encourage authors, as they build their own brand, to bring their customers to where they want to transact, and they can make a lot more money by selling it through their own websites and having this sort of partnership with us, because I think our royalty rates, because there's fewer middlemen. I mean, we are the printers, literally. So we make a little bit of profit on that. We make a little bit of profit here and there, but there isn't a big retailer taking a large chunk of it. So that's what we hope will be the future for print on demand, that authors can sell it through their own outlets and again reap more of the rewards that way.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because that's obviously what a lot of musicians do, is they sell direct, and they do these events and sell things there. So it is interesting. Obviously, BookBaby grew out of CD Baby, which was bought by, I think, the parent company that you've talked about. Yes. And music first, and books do follow the music industry. So what trends, since you moved over from music, what trends do you see in music that are likely coming into books?
Well, you're right. Publishing is following a lot of the same script that we have watched in music. Now, music is farther down the path. It's a much more mature marketplace. It's very, very established. Although, yes, there are new things popping up every day, new streaming services, new licensing opportunities, sync licensing, and things like that, which we've gotten into. Musicians are finding different ways to monetize their books. We hope the authors can kind of realize some of those things. I think it's easier for, say, a nonfiction author to turn their book into a webinar, into serialization, into magazine articles. They can parse that content a lot easier than, say, a fiction author. So the I would say the playing field may be a little bit uneven between fiction and nonfiction. What we're seeing, I think, in the publishing space and it paralleled in the music space, is there were a lot of startups that came out, thought they had a great product, were the shining darlings of the industry media for a while, and then they sort of fizzled out because it didn't have a sustained model, and they really didn't offer the kind of value to customers of what they need. And I unfortunately I have to put pronoun sort of in that category, that I think offered great promise, but it really didn't, where they could take it from there. I sort of wondered about it, but I thought it was a great service for authors at the time. I see another encouraging sign, which is sort of related, are paywalls. Back many years ago, or not that long ago, I guess, people thought, well, I can get my news for free. Why am I going to pay the New York Times for getting access to their news? I think now in this age, especially in the last year or so, we have valued information, quality information. And the music industry, a lot of that music has gone to zero. You can pay zero on the free versions of things like that. Publishing industry hasn't gone there, and I see a nice trend going the other way, that people are paying for quality information. My local newspaper, the Philadelphia Inquirer, they now have a paywall, and it's going just great, and they're able to sustain and finance great journalism. I guess the other trend would be that again, musicians have always been entrepreneurial in their thinking. They've always been out there. They always know that they have to do some side hustles here or there. They have to have their merch tables. They make no bones about the fact that it's a business. I think authors are really kind of getting that same kind of mindset, and either they're monetizing it in the way that I suggest, or they know that they need to really understand the business behind publishing. And we hear a lot of, we answer a lot of calls every day talking about those sorts of topics now. So I see that as a rise in the professionalism and the expectations, frankly, of authors, rising up in par with our musicians on that side of our business.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I don't know if I agree with you entirely on this paywall thing, or at least I think it's complicated, because I also subscribe to newspapers with paywalls. So The Guardian and the Financial Times in the UK, which kind of gives me the left and the right perspective. But it's what's interesting, I think, with the subscription model and the paywall is, for example, Amazon's Kindle Unlimited, which is a subscription paywall model where you can eat all you like within the Kindle Unlimited space. Also, Audible with audiobooks. I'm a subscriber on Audible. I'm sure many listeners actually are, because they kind of dominate these subscription audio service. So I think you've got that too. And then, of course, on music, there's Spotify and other ones like that. Even YouTube now, I think, has some of that. So the streaming versus paywall, I think, seems to be a real dichotomy. And of course, if Amazon, there aren't many publishers. I mean, Kobo has Kobo Plus, but there's not many publishers. Barnes and Noble have basically opted out now of the ebook space. So this whole streaming, and of course, there's been some big artists who've said, well, I'm not putting my books on, my music on these streaming services, and then have changed their minds. I think Taylor Swift is the big one. Was that on Apple Music, or I can't remember, but you know what I mean? So I think streaming and subscriptions may be an issue with ebooks. What do you think about that, with reflecting on the music industry? Well,
I guess my happiness in that paywalls being accepted, I think, come from my journalistic roots, and it's nice to see poor starving journalists being able to be paid somewhat. There are some differences in the mediums. I mean, music is something that you can sample very quickly. It's for 2 or 3 minutes long, and you're probably going to hear that same song 50 times over. Are you going to read a book 50 times? Probably not. So the inherent with the actual medium, I think there are some different challenges. I mean, we've seen some subscription services. Hoopla is doing very, very well for us. We're actually, having a lot of success. Our authors are getting a lot of reads on that service. Scribd, those sorts of things that not really catching on as much. I think they tried to build themselves as the Netflix of books, whatever that means. But I don't know if that sort of subscription service is going to ultimately be something for independent authors outside of obviously the hugely successful Kindle Unlimited. So there may be limited other opportunities, I think, for self-published authors in that way.
Yeah, interesting times indeed. Now, the reason I wanted to interview you is, partly to do the fact that BookBaby is a partner member of the Alliance of Independent Authors,
yes.
And which means it has been vetted as a good service for authors and I got to say this, sorry, but at the time of recording in January 2018, because as you say, things change. I know BookBaby's been around a long time, but we've seen
to pay our dues. Don't worry.
Yeah, but it's there are lots of service providers for authors, and of course you mentioned Pronoun, which arrived and then disappeared, and there are other services that have arrived and disappeared, but some of the bigger ones, BookBaby is one of those, has stuck around for a number of years. So can you just so people understand, how is BookBaby different to IngramSpark and CreateSpace?
Well, first, I want to sing the praises of those companies. There are a lot of great providers in this space. We're friends and allies with them. We actually refer people to some of these services. If our services aren't right for them, we're not going to take their money. We're going to, if they need a low-cost ebook service, we talk to them about Smashwords and Drafted Digital. This marketplace is too big for us to want to be greedy and try to get everyone. There's plenty of room for everyone in this space. So I have only really good things to say about people like Blurb and Lulu and CreateSpace and Kindle Direct. So what's different about BookBaby? Well, we think in this very digital world, there's a place for analog, and analog is people. One of the hallmarks of our music business has been, we are musicians talking to musicians when they're getting their music done either through physical CDs or things like that, which they used to do and still do to some extent, but also in the digital space. So what we have with BookBaby is we recruit authors so they can talk to authors. I would say 2/3 of the people that I see outside of my new office here probably have either published a book or in the process of publishing a book, or they really know and understand this. Our training is long and excruciating at times, before I can put people on the phones, but I want them to be real experts. Our model here is we want to be that, and I'll use that tech word, full stack, if you will. When we started BookBaby, it was only ebooks going to Apple, of all things. That's how we started. Now our goal is to offer really everything that a self-published author can want or need. Now, if they want to use some other cover designer or they have their own, that's great. We don't lock them up into expensive packages or things like that and force them to do things. They can pick and choose off our menu. But I think that what we offer to them is convenience. They can come to us and have everything done. We do attract a fair share of people who have it on their bucket list to do that one book before their time is gone here. But what we're seeing now is a lot of very professional and ambitious writers who say, look, I want to have time to write, and I want to have time to market, because that's just as important as the writing now. So I want you to take care of all the rest. And we do editing for them, we do cover design for them, we do formatting for them, we give them proofs. They're in full control of the project all the way along. We don't own anything. We're a service company. We're a distributor. We're not a publisher. We don't own your rights. We help you into the retail marketplace. We give you your own portal to sell direct to fans. But if you're going to ask me what's different about BookBaby, again, it's people. We have people calling us for the last 5 years. Well, I'm this close to getting my book done, or I'm this close to getting my book done, and we encourage them and nourish them. And our customer service folks are here from 9 to 5 every day, and we dispense a ton of free advice, or they blog on our website. So we really do have that personal touch, and we think publishing is a people business, and again, it makes it more rewarding for us to hear firsthand these stories. It's not a chat bot or just a cold email. No, we're hearing them talk about the stories of, of how their book is doing. And no, we're not going to read every book. I don't want to put that out there that we're going to read every book, but we will give a lot of good advice and hope they take it.
Yeah, and I think that, again, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because, I'm generally an advocate of the pretty much DIY process. But what's happened is more and more people email me and just say, I don't want to do everything online myself. I would really like some help, and I want someone to phone. And it's so interesting because, of course, most of these services now are set up so there is no human. And if you'd like, it's very hard to speak to a human, within the KDP or the CreateSpace ecosystem. It's mostly an email service to various people. So I think that this is a really interesting thing for people, as you say, new authors who might be uncomfortable or not want to do all of that, and also more developed authors who want more of a partner, I guess. And I like this selling direct print thing, which I know Ingram are getting more into with Aereo, and I think this is so interesting, the fact that we can become more like bookstore owners with print as well. So that's really, really cool. So just to kind of circle back on are there any other sort of personality types or author types who you think might fit well with BookBaby? For example, I've referred people, I don't know if you still have this service, but people who were previously published who only have a print copy of their book, who want it scanned. I believe you have a scanning service, so if they don't have a Word copy of their book, you can take a print book and kind of scan it. Do you still do that?
That's right. We have companies that we recommend. We're thinking of starting to do that ourselves. We seem to have a record as a company of saying we try something out, we watch other people do it, say, you know what, we could probably do that better. So we're actually considering taking that in-house. But yes, we recommend. There are 2 or 3 providers here in the U.S. who do a very nice job of getting that. Now, the output is not 100% perfect, so it's really incumbent upon the author to go through that carefully and make sure that it's not foolproof. But it can get about 99.9% there in some of the best cases. So, but in terms of the personality, boy, we deal with authors of all kinds of genres. From kids book, we do a ton of kids book, a lot of cookbooks, tons of fiction, spiritual books seems to be a large niche for us. But we have people who have traditionally published who have come back to us. We have people who have started with BookBaby and gone on to traditional publisher. We have one, Carl Johan. He wrote the book The Rabbit Wants You to Go to Sleep.
Oh, yes,
the #1 bestseller many years. He started with us as an ebook, and sure enough, he had great success doing that. Signed a seven-figure advance with a major publisher, but lo and behold, this spring we're doing his next book. He wants to come back to self-publishing.
Wow, so that's amazing.
It is great. I mean, he had a great experience with us, and we're thrilled to be working with him. So I think we do give people some encouragement. We really empower them. They can use us for as much or as little as they need, and if they need to go elsewhere, we tearfully wave them goodbye. But as I say, they own all the rights. We never own any of the book. We're just here as a service provider and sometimes a cheerleader.
Oh, that's great. And every author needs that. So where can people find BookBaby online if they want to check out all the services?
It's very easy. It's bookbaby.com, BookBaby.com, just how it sounds. And I'm actually going to be over on your side of the pond in April at the London Book Fair.
So fantastic.
Looking forward to perhaps seeing you there and seeing folks in the UK, meeting you there.
Great. Well, it was lovely to meet you, Stephen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.